Hello guys, it is I, Otakushinsaku, back again for another video reaction. This one, of course, we're getting back to Fate. So, here's another Fate video for my Fate fans out there like myself. This one being Tsiah 4's video, or, yeah, it's 4 or 5. Again, I am terrible with Roman numerals. Either case, this is the video Stronger Than Excalibur, how Castoria gained the weapon of Heracles. To be honest, I just wanted to watch this video because of the title, because I have no idea what the fuck he's getting on about. So, let's fucking see what he's getting on about.
Yo, so this couldn't have come at a better time because we've been needing to get into this since the end of the chapter. We got the patron request from Tsiah. He says, can you make a video about Marmayados and its legend? By the way, if you haven't already, make sure you guys sign up for the Patreon. You get access to early content and priority on your request. So towards the end of Lost Belt 6, the chapter Avalon, when Castoria started to go into her final ascension, she started to gain some extra things in her kit. One of those things being the mythological mystic code Marmayados. One of the craziest things about this weapon is that they came out the gate and said that it's stronger than Excalibur. It's like, hold on, what do you mean? Straight from her profile. A large sword that has the appearance of a staff. It was forged by a god of fire, that being Hephaestus, and granted to the great heroes in the past. It is said that this sword exceeds Excalibur in power alone. And during times when King Arthur would lend Excalibur to Gawain, this is the large sword that she would use as a substitute. So they just came with this wild lore drop out of nowhere. Didn't have any hints about it in the story until the very end. Didn't bother to divulge where it came from or anything of the sort. So we're going to get into that. There is a really good thread that kind of combines the overall mythos of this weapon. Essentially, it goes all the way back to the Titanomachia, which is the Titan War, the same war that's addressed in Fate during LB5 when we went up against Zeus. The thing about the Titanomachia is that the whole war was the gods battling for the succession of the universe over their predecessors, the Titans. It was Zeus trying to overthrow his father Kronos. The Greek gods come out on top, and for a while Zeus was viewed as a noteworthy figure, up until the point where he wasn't. And then he started to get viewed as what most people would know him to be, one of the most underhanded gods there is. And so it came to a head where the situation flipped. Now you have Gaia, that being Mother Earth, saying, I hope you find somebody that's ready for this war that's about to come your way, because at this point, you're no better than your father. She says, I hereby warn the heavens that one day you shall fall before my children, the giants, if you do not acquire the aid of the greatest of mortals, a man who can defeat the gods and even become the king of them all. And this, of course, ended up being the battle of the giants, the Gigantomachia. Naturally, Zeus starts panicking because he knows Mother Earth isn't playing. He knows she's not. So he's picking through his children trying to figure out who this person is. From Perseus to Cadmus to Orion, and none of these people felt like they had the qualities to carry that mantle. In the meantime, he had to lace up, so he decided to forge one of the greatest weapons that he possibly could, in the same way that the Cyclops forged his lightning bolts. And just to put into perspective how strong his lightning bolts are in verse, they literally can destroy planets when they're weakened. It says he ordered the construction of a blade made specifically to save the world, as he heard that various human cultures applied the protection of worlds to grand weapons like his own lightning bolts. At this point, a sword was forged, the handle utilizing the bones of the mightiest of dragons and the blade being carved from the greatest of adamantine. So at this point, what he realized is that not even the god of blacksmithing, Hephaestus, was able to create a weapon so destructive on its own. So he rallied up multiple people to get in on this weapon to make sure that it had the proper foundation to carry out the job. One of the people that he recruited was the Greek Gallant the Smith, which is the equivalent to Muramasa before Muramasa existed and his legend started to circulate. It says Gallant the Smith forged it, and Sir Vulcan or Hephaestus carved it. There were 3 goddesses to temper it and 3 fairies to carve it. Never on account of any blow will the weapon bend, nor will it ever be burned by rust, nor will there ever be a man hurt by it who will heal from the wound. So he's trying to make the ultimate. That's just how serious it was. And it turns out the weapon was a complete success. It was so good that nobody could use it. Great job, Zeus. Now he's going back trying to figure out that person that Gaia was talking about, because none of the other demigods could use the weapon. It was perfect. Too perfect. Rather, as no ordinary hero could even lift the blade, even some of the demigods couldn't even unsheath it. But then, as the giants grew ever so common and the more powerful, a man was born that would change the course of not only the gods' lives, but even the entirety of human history. And that man, of course, is none other than Alcides, the one that would come to be known as Heracles. So to clear this up, this weapon, Marmaiodos, the one that Castoria gained, is a weapon that originally belonged to Heracles. That's his sword, and she's the one that got to use it first. Isn't that madness? Now, as an Artoria stan,
Wait a minute. Oh, God. Oh. Oh. Oh, God. Oh. Ooh. The reason I'm going oof is because of this. Alcides is a fate servant, obviously. He is the true archer servant for the True and False Holy Grail Wars and Fate Streets Fake. He can be, he can be summoned in Avenger class, but this is him as a archer, yeah. So this is Heracles if you summon him as archer, where he gives up his immortality. He doesn't have his 12 lives, but his 12 labors noble phantasm turns into King's Order. King's Order is a crystallization and proof of having completed the 12 labors, meaning that instead of getting 12 lives, he gets 12 different noble phantasms, one each being the embodiment of a labor. We know currently of 3, as well as the 9 lives attack, obviously, that all versions of Heracles gets, because that's a specific attack and technique that he created. But the reason why I'm scared is because it means that currently we only know of 3 of his noble phantasms that he gets, of the 12 that he has. And so why I'm freaking out over this video is because it means that it is theoretically possible that one of the 12 noble phantasms he gets is he gets to pull out this sword. This sword that is stronger than Excalibur. A sword that was designed by, a sword that was commissioned by Zeus, not designed, but commissioned by Zeus himself to be the most powerful sword ever created in the verse. Oh, this is, oh, dude, this is, oh, this is fucking terrifying. The reason why is because for non-Fate fans, they don't understand how having something be more powerful than Excalibur is terrifying. Because Excalibur has 2 major events, and I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs. 2 major events associated to it. 1, it was or 3. It is strong enough to deflect Gabolg. It is strong enough to stand toe to toe with pure power with Tsiah, and even in some tellings exceed Tsiah. And then, on top of that, it was the weapon used to at least temporarily put down the being that pretty much ended the original forms of the machine gods, because in Fate the Greek gods were actually machine gods, but before they became the Greek gods that we know them as, they were machine gods, but they lost most of their power in a fight that was only ended when someone used the power of Excalibur. So Excalibur is so powerful, it can defeat an alien god. That is, an alien god more powerful than even the types. And yet, here comes a sword more powerful than that. I am losing my mind with how powerful this thing supposedly is.
I'm all for the Artoria glaze, trust me I am, but this is ridiculous. The fact that she brought his weapon in before he could even get the chance. Nasu, how are you moving like this? But if you look at the depictions of her wielding this sword, I'm not gonna lie, she does look fire with the sword. I'm not gonna lie. But you did still do my boy dirty. Anyways, they started to realize that Heracles was that guy when they saw how impressive he was as a fighter. From the 12 laborers to the kings that he defeated. It got to the point where if you put Heracles and a monster in the ring, the monster is the one that would be seen as the underdog. So in his mind, he's thinking this has to be the one that Gaia was referring to. And it says he decided Heracles would be granted a chance to wield the great sword, and much to the surprise of all of Olympus, not only could he lift it, unsheath it, and use it, but the weapon felt light to him, like a regular sword.
Oh, Heracles. Oh, Heracles is so broken. Oh. There are things about Greek myth, like, obviously I know who Heracles is, but this dude is so broken. The greatest warriors, everyone could not even touch the sword. It was heavy. But to Heracles, not only could he touch it, not only could he unsheath it, but in his hands, it felt as light as any other sword off the shelf. Oh. Oh, Heracles, you are so broken. My guy. My dude.
Like a dagger even. He's walking around.
Oh, it felt like a dagger? Oh, that is... The fact that the master of Heracles, like, for example, in Fate Night, lost the war. How? Again, outside of Gilgamesh, like, if Heracles was summoned in a Holy Grail war, and Gilgamesh and or Artoria are not in the field, how do you lose that war? Like, how? My guy. How?
Around toting this with one hand, and then it comes to the point where Gaia finally released the being that was supposed to put an end to Zeus, that being Typhon. Typhon being one of the deadliest beings in all of Greek myth, but in this context, in the Nasuverse, he is the son of Gaia and Tartarus, and Tartarus is basically the great pit, the place under the underworld. This is where Zeus tossed Kronos after he finished him off. So Typhon would end up being the one that led the entire giant race to attack Olympus, and it was Heracles that was the one that was fending majority of these giants off. And they even mentioned that in the story. It's in LB5. It tells us a great army of giants climbed Olympus only to be destroyed by the mighty Heracles in a single swift strike, as the gods offered backup in the ends of the great heavenly mountain. Zeus ordered the gods to leave Typhon for himself, as the greatest of battles between a god and a monster raged on. So ultimately, Zeus has his battle with Typhon, he comes out on top, and all of the rest of the giants that still flooded the world were met by Heracles, and he was the one that kept taking them down for years, all the way up until his death. So you're probably thinking, where does Artoria come in all of this? And that's the thing. Since the weapon had such a high demand, there was nobody that was capable of wielding the weapon on the same level after Heracles. So when he passed away, it ended up falling in the hands of his descendant, King Ryan. And King Ryan, unfortunately, just wasn't built like that, and he just so happened to be an enemy of King Arthur. King Arthur goes against Ryan, ends up beating him, and takes the weapon. It says Excalibur looked like the strongest and most beautiful weapon a man has ever laid their eyes upon, until a sword greater than his own Excalibur showed up. He had looked up to the great Hercules in the Roman tales, and now he feasted his eyes upon the very blade that had saved the world, a sword capable of slaying the gods. And this goes back into that portion from her profile where for a long time it said that King Arthur actually wielded the sword, and when he'd use it, he would hand off Excalibur to Gawain because he knew that he could trust him with the weapon. It wasn't until Merlin came in with his clairvoyance and said, hey, I know you really love this weapon, but you'll never be as good with that weapon as Heracles. You're better fit for using Excalibur. He advised him to utilize Excalibur once more, as he could never truly obtain the potential of this legendary blade, just like King Ryan couldn't. So Arthur would be in the same boat. Yes, he was a greater fighter, but neither one of them could match Heracles. So one day he had a tribute. He put the weapon in the middle of the round table itself and deemed Heracles as an honorary member. It says Heracles would forever be in his heart and in the heart of all the members of the round table, a knight as great, if not greater than all of them. So
Heracles is also an honorary member of the Round Table. Oh my god. What the fuck is going on?
So a lot of respect here for my guy, as there should be. If only we could get some of that in the story. Good thing we have Strange Fate. So the question for most is probably, well, how is the weapon stronger than Excalibur? I thought Excalibur took out Safar and it had the seals. And
Oh yeah, Safar is the name. Yes.
General consensus is that the weapon is stronger than Excalibur at its base. So you can consider it a lot like an Tsiah, for example, which would still make the statement true, because in most cases, Arthur would never be able to release the seals anyway. So it would be a greater weapon in most circumstances, but it still doesn't change the fact that they came out the gate with this statement, and Excalibur is a top 10 weapon regardless if the seals are on or not, which made it even more exciting. To top that off, instead of being a phantasm, it's labeled as a mythological mystic code. And if you've been following the channel, we've done a video on those. This is something that was introduced in the Extraverse, where the story taps in to some of the greatest weapons and armor to exist. And just from the mythological codes that we had in the Extraverse, we saw how people like Gil and Emiya were able to move at light speed and keep up with a beast equivalent like Kiara and Bibi before actual beasts became a thing in FGO. They are an extension of some of the greatest feats in the Nasuverse, and this weapon would be all the same. There are other weapons to get into in her kit, as well as the other.
Oh, dude, this is insane. This is insane. Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think on this for a second. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining me. I am Otakushinsaku. I hope to see you guys next time.